I want to thank the members of the media for joining us today. This is an exciting day in the city of Buffalo. I want you to look at the folks that are up here with me. These are members of the City of Buffalo Development Team. And today we are going to be providing a development briefing on development in the City of Buffalo. One of my major priorities, is accelerating development and job creation in Buffalo. And we're going to be doing these briefings on a regular basis to keep the community informed about what's happening with development, to keep the media informed so you can help us tell the story. And we think by telling the story of what's happening with development in the city of Buffalo, it will help us to attract even more development and job creation in the city. Joining me today is Brendan Mahaffey, the Executive Director of the Office of Strategic Planning. Brendan, as you know, is the Chief Economic Development Officer for the City of Buffalo. With us are some members of the development team for the city, directors for the development team. Seated in the front row are additional members of our development team. They're all doing a great job, and we just wanted to highlight all of their work on behalf of the residents of this community this morning. Now, great news that we're going to announce today is that the City of Buffalo has reached $9 billion in development since 2012. It includes projects that bring affordable housing, market rate housing, office, retail, mixed use, commercial, and industrial development to the City of Buffalo. Our progress does not stop there. In 2022, both East Buffalo and West Buffalo, areas of our city where we have experienced the highest poverty, have seen the highest rates of development in 2022. There was $197 million in project investment in West Buffalo and $116 million in project development in East Buffalo. Those are numbers that we are very excited to report out to the community, and it shows our focus on lifting up all areas of the city of Buffalo and making sure that the development, that the renaissance is reaching our entire community. You'll find this information in the Office of Strategic Planning's 2022 Development Report. The report goes into detail about public and private development that took place last year. But last year, as we are coming out of the pandemic, was a very successful development year for the City of Buffalo. My goal has been to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic strong. And something that we've been saying for the last few years is that those municipalities that are able to come out of the pandemic strong most quickly will reap the benefits of that. We are seeing that in the City of Buffalo, but we have to accelerate the pace of what we're doing, and that's why we're going to be reporting out to the community on a regular basis. And with 126 development projects approved or permitted by the city's planning board last year, it's clear that 2022 was a very successful year for the City of Buffalo. We want to continue that success. It's also clear that Buffalo remains a good place for development and investment, and we want to send that message across the state. We want to send that message across the nation. In the coming years, my plan is to continue to build on our strong momentum by encouraging more development and expanding our focus on equity and inclusion. Let me say that again. We're going to continue to expand our focus on equity and inclusion. We want to make sure that every section of our city benefits from the investment that we're seeing in the city of Buffalo. We have put tools in place to be able to do that, and we're very proud of the direction that things are going in. Now, Mr. Mahaffey is going to take us on a deeper dive, sharing the big picture of the city's progress. And again, I want to thank Brendan Mahaffey, our Executive Director of the Office of Strategic Planning, and our entire development team for the excellent work that they are doing to help drive development in the city of Buffalo. Brendan?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by acknowledging the number of people that are up here and the fact that this is a team. It's not one individual by any stretch of the imagination. I want to obviously acknowledge the mayor for giving us the ability to hire so many great professionals to achieve a number like $9 billion that I think when I first stepped into this position, most people wouldn't have believed that we could get there. And that includes a pandemic in the middle of it. So that number, I think, could potentially even have been higher. So the team that is before you includes members of the Mayor's Office of Strategic Planning who oversee the Division of Real Estate, Division of Development, Division of Planning and Zoning, working in collaboration with city development agencies such as the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation, the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency, and then also the strengthening collaboration now with the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority, which is key for achieving the mayor's goal in terms of equity and inclusion, with what is estimated to be almost $1 billion worth of investments through Marine Drive, Perry, and Schaefer, and including substantial capital improvements to all of the buildings that are overseen by the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority. This work again requires...
For those that don't know them, could you just introduce them by name?
I certainly can at this point. So why don't I start over here? Gillian Brown is the Executive Director of the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority. He is not joined today, but we will keep it in our thoughts by Nadine Marrero, who is the President of Bridges, and that's because she is busy with Marine Drive meetings at this very moment. Scott Billman, who is a Senior Director with the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency, formerly General Counsel. Howie Green, who is the fairly new Director of Real Estate and has already made an enormous impact in the Division of Real Estate. Crystal Middleton, who's the Director of Planning and Zoning, has helped to create things such as Envision Neighborhoods for that community engagement, which we see as a key component of, again, achieving equity and inclusion. Hope Young-Watkins, as well, as Senior Director overseeing programs at the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency, many of the affordable housing projects that we have, and also other housing supportive services. Lisa Hicks, who's the Director of Development, overseeing projects such as the Mohawk Ramp, and now also the DPW campus work that we are working on. Brandy Merriweather, who is the President of the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation. You all know Northland, and also all of the development work in downtown, as well as the Buffalo Lakeside Commerce Park. And Rebecca Gandor, who's the Vice President at the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation, plus many others, deputy directors and others who have joined us today for this. So it really does take every single one of these individuals to achieve a number like $9 billion. So in terms of the information that you have, I won't do too much more of a deeper dive, but kind of leave that for questions. It's robust, as the mayor said. Quite frankly, some of the questions that we'll get, we'll have to follow up with you because 126 projects are hard to keep at the top of mind in terms of every single detail for those projects. But what we're seeing is at the beginning, it used to be a few large projects. Now it is many projects for maybe only a few million to those larger projects as well. So we are really starting to see a variety of development in the city of Buffalo. The planning board meeting last night, I think, spoke to that, where we're talking about mid-sized buildings, not just the large buildings and the work that is being done, but also look at the diversity of developers. No longer is it about one name in the city of Buffalo. There are dozens of names in the city of Buffalo in terms of individuals who are doing work. The mayor has also worked very hard to make sure that it is a diverse group of developers that we are working with. Lisa Hicks overseeing a meeting that we now have on a regular basis focused on really the development of Black developers in the city of Buffalo as well. So there's a lot here. to be taken away from. And I just want to bookend to say that this is a 10-year retrospective that we're talking about. 2012 is when we first started the methodology for keeping track of these numbers to bring us to 2022. I'm going to speak a little bit about what might take us to 2032, and that's significant because that's Buffalo's bicentennial. At that point in time, we'll be celebrating 200 years of the city of Buffalo. So our focus right now, as many of you have seen in the media, is keeping up with what's changing. We are always adapting to what's happening in the city of Buffalo. And I want to acknowledge that there are a lot of headwinds, but these headwinds are what many municipalities across the country, many cities, many downtowns across the country are facing. And one of the reasons that I'm proud to work for the Brown administration, where others might get blown over, we lean into it. And that's exactly what we're doing right now with a lot of the work that we're doing for the next few years. The Climate Action Plan, because our climate is changing, we acknowledge that, and we need to be able to adapt to that. We now have a Climate Action Manager that works in the Mayor's Office of Strategic Planning. Kelly St. John has joined us here today for this. Over the next few days, we are going to be holding public meetings for several initiatives, actually, that we are working to coordinate as a team, as a group, all of the conversations, though related. One is this Smart Streets Design Plan, which is the next step in the future of mobility. We've been very fortunate with Douglas Development and also M&T to secure many millions of dollars for improvements in the public right-of-way. This Smart Streets Design Plan is going to inform that so that we're, like climate, we're adjusting to technology, and we're adjusting also to our changing downtown. We understand what's happening to as much as one can with remote work. We understand that we are seeing more of a neighborhood in downtown, so we are going to build our public rights of way to reflect these changes. Public meeting on Wednesday night in Seneca 1. At that public meeting, we're also, Brandy Merriweather and her team at Budsey are leading a downtown waterfront plan where we're looking at all of the infrastructure that stretches from DL&W Terminal to Centennial Park. So much investment, so much activity, including Marine Drive, which also has public meetings on Thursday night as well to review potential development at Marine Drive. So just in that one area alone, a significant amount of work. And to the mayor's commitment to equity, we have in the midst of it public housing and also other affordable housing commitments. So this will be an equitable waterfront on the Great Lakes, and that has always been the mayor's commitment. We also soon will be, we are going through the process right now of reviewing all the applications that came in for the requests for applications for the American Rescue Plan funds. That is over $80 million that we will be investing for public health clinics, for mental health support, for affordable housing, for many different things. We don't have the details on that, but just to give you an update, the teams have been going through. We have about 8 separate project managers at this point in time that have gone through, and we'll be ready to make announcements fairly soon on that. That is going to have a significant impact on development throughout the city of Buffalo, but in particular, our low to moderate income neighborhoods in East Buffalo and West Buffalo that were hit hardest by the pandemic. We now as well have a 4-year strategic plan. First time the city of Buffalo has that. It was really driven by the fact that there is so much money from the state and federal government at this point in time that we need to really drill down on a lot of this money to make sure that we're achieving our goals and objectives. That is now available on the City of Buffalo's website and will be something that you'll be hearing about much more as we move forward. There are many development projects in the pre-development phase that are not included in the $9 billion that we're also working on, really critical, such as the Hispanic Cultural Center, which we have committed, the mayor has committed $1 million to with the support of the Common Council. We're also working with Stephen Butler from Icahn Bee Gees on a development at 1652 Genesee Street, as well as the African American Cultural Center at 350 Maston Avenue. So those are projects that we are working on to keep an eye on. And then, of course, the BMHA with over $1 billion worth of investment that we're seeing. So it is not just about what's happened over the last 10 years, but it's also very much about where we're going, understanding our opportunities and our challenges, and continuing this momentum in the city of Buffalo as we emerge from this pandemic and look to secure the talent pool that we need to keep the city growing, keep our businesses, and also do it in an inclusive and equitable way.
Thank you very much, Brendan. So that is a snapshot of the development that's taking place in the city, how we got to the $9 billion between 2012 to 2022, and how we will keep moving forward into our bicentennial of 2032. With that, I will open up to questions that the members of the media have. Jonathan?
Have you seen any slowdown or any resulting impact from the interest rate hikes in terms of development activity?
There are some impacts. I'm going to let Brendan speak to that in a moment. It requires creativity. It requires partnership. That's what we've been bringing together to move projects forward. But I want Brendan to speak a little bit more in detail on that.
To the extent that we've been involved in those, and we've been involved in several of those conversations, it hasn't been an impediment. It's certainly been a new challenge. But as I think many might know here, the number of challenges that have been placed in the way of anybody who's trying to do development, again, across the country, have been significant. But what we have seen is a continued commitment by those in the development community to build these projects and get these projects done. The resources are there in many instances for the projects. So the impact is there, but I wouldn't say that it has been a defining impact at this point anyway.
Brendan,
Yeah.
any update on either the LaSalle Station bids or the Broadway Barns?
I'll just quickly touch on, so LaSalle, for LaSalle, we're in final negotiations at this point in time with the NFTA on issuing the RFP to the teams that responded. So that, and Lisa Hicks is overseeing that. And then also in terms of the Broadway Barns, Lisa Hicks also overseeing, she and is put together a selection committee at this point in time, and will be engaging them on the Broadway Barns. Happy to have had 4 responses, I believe, for the Broadway Barns. At first, we did not have any, and really attribute that, as I think I've said to some of you, to the fact that the RFP was not designed as it should have been. So we took a different approach, and happy to have 4 responses.
Is it realistic to think that by the end of the year you'll have designated developers for both those projects?
I'm going to defer to Lisa on that question.
Lisa Hicks. So for Broadway Barns, we should have designated developer agreement by the end of the year. For LaSalle, much more complicated and in-depth project. We're hoping to have a designated developer by the end of the year, but it may be going into Q1 of 2024, I'm sorry.
Lisa, for those who might not know, can you just talk a little bit about both projects, what they are?
Sure.
LaSalle and the Broadway Garage?
Sure. So LaSalle is a project that the city is undergoing in partnership with the NFTA. There are 3 city-owned parcels and 3 NFTA-owned parcels that we're looking for a developer to develop into an equitable transit-oriented development. So that means incorporating the transit station that currently exists into a larger development. What we're looking for there is collaboration with the existing community and some synchronization with what exists there now. So it's right across from Rails to Trails and Shoshone Park. So our expectation is that the developer that submits the winning proposal will have those elements incorporated along with mixed income housing. And we're looking for a mix of income, so not just affordable housing. It could be a combination of that and market rate or different levels of affordability. And again, that being incorporated with the transit station that exists currently. So that's LaSalle. Just really quickly as well, the RFQ was released last year. We received 10 responses from 10 qualified development teams, and those 10 respondents will be invited to reply to the RFP once we complete our negotiations of the final draft with the NFTA. For Broadway Barn, the Broadway Garage, we released an request for expression of interest rather than releasing an RFP, which we did last year. We received 4 responses, and we're looking for a developer to submit ideas as to how they would develop the Broadway Garage. This needs to be done in partnership and with the vision that was created by the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor Commission. So we are looking for developments that match the strategy that has been laid out for that area of the corridor, given that it's a strategic corridor for the city of Buffalo.
So how can, I'm looking at this pamphlet here, and there's like a bunch of different developments talking about housing facilities for East Buffalo. How can we ensure gentrification won't happen to where we see that there's a bunch of new developments coming in, there isn't enough people to really pay for those rent, and where we come into the same process all over again of some of those old long-term residents that was in East Buffalo is getting pushed out because of these new developments coming in. Oh, and they just can't really afford these new developments as well too.
Understood. So as we look at any type of planning strategy or any housing strategies or any planned developments, what we like to do is work with the development community as well as our planning department to ensure that we're putting in mechanisms for anti-displacement and also to ensure opportunities for residents who reside in the area to actually live in the homes that are built. We're seeing this across many developments throughout the entire city, and it is a concern, but it's something that we're looking to put strategies in place to prevent displacement of existing residents.
Yeah, I do also want to ask you this too. So I know you guys have a number of different projects with different facilities and different like arts and culture. Are you guys in charge of like building developments as far as grocery stores as well? A lot of people on the east side are talking about how there's just a really big food insecurity. Instead of looking for more housing, they're looking for more places to get some food.
Well, people and the presence of people attract retail investment and retail development. So we think with quality housing, with more affordable housing, with mixed income housing, we will build on the population base that will make it easier to attract grocery stores and other retail to the city of Buffalo. So that's part of our plan. We've also set a goal to prevent displacement of 40% affordability of all housing development in the city of Buffalo. We feel very positively about what we're seeing in terms of meeting that goal. The affordable housing that's coming online. Good questions, and that is included as part of our plan. And just touching on the Broadway Garage, yesterday Governor Hochul announced $10 million for the city's request to build a comprehensive state-of-the-art public works campus. Working with the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor, we have long wanted to remove the public works operation from the African American Heritage Corridor, and the $10 million commitment from Governor Hochul is going to go a long way to helping us move the Broadway Garage project forward.
Mayor, if you or someone could speak to any level of detail that's available on the DL&W terminal project, as well, I'm looking for the same question inserting Marine Drive.
So I will have Brendan and Gillian speak to those. Brendan on DL&W and Gillian on Marine Drive.
Actually, for DL&W, we don't have the latest update on that. So that's one of the things with Sam Severino and the NFTA that we need to continue our conversations. They are going to be part of the stakeholder group, though, with the work that Brandy is overseeing with the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation. So that is going to be worked into what is happening not only at the DL&W, but also canal side land next door, Marine Drive, the parking lots that are owned by the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency that are next to then Erie Village, the Erie Basin Village, and then all the way down to Centennial Park. So we will have much more detail on that very soon. And I know Gillian certainly has detail on Marine Drive.
Hi, good morning. Gillian Brown, Executive Director of the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority. So As many of you know, Marine Drive consists of 7 towers on the waterfront, total of 616 units. And we are in the process now of designing with the residents a vision of what it could look like in such a way as to demolish, hopefully, all 7 of those towers and replace them with a mix of building styles and a mix of units that would better sort of revert to the original grid pattern that was on that site, better fit in with the canal side and the redevelopment that's going on the waterfront, and also maintain no fewer than the currently existing 616 units of public and affordable housing. So what the mayor has committed to many times is the idea that the waterfront should be a place where anyone has the right to live. So if you look at many other Great Lakes cities that demolish dilapidated housing on their waterfronts, you see it generally replaced with people of higher income and different kinds of condominiums and things like that. We believe that there's more than enough of that on the waterfront, and that this footprint really needs to be preserved for affordable and public housing. And so that's what we're doing right now. This evening, we have the first of the resident-driven design sessions, followed by a public meeting at which the public can appear and give us their thoughts. The developers and planners and architects will then meet and go through the ideas that are generated tonight. And on Thursday, we're having another public meeting at which we will unveil the initial results of the planning that was done tonight and tomorrow.
More specifically, on East Buffalo, since May 14th, we've heard a lot about investments going into that area. A few weeks ago, we just spoke to a lot of residents on Jefferson Avenue just about their frustrations of not seeing any tangible change. So when do you think we can expect that change? When can we expect to see that shovel hit the ground?
Shovels have been hitting the ground. And if you drive down Jefferson Avenue, if you drive to different parts of East Buffalo, you'll see new things that have gone up in East Buffalo. The thing to remind people of is East Buffalo, Buffalo's black community, isn't just Jefferson Avenue. It's much larger than that. So we are helping to build the whole East Buffalo ecosystem. One of those areas that's critically important to East Buffalo is the city's partnership with the state at the Northland Workforce Development Center and the Northland Corridor. And I want to ask Brandy Merriweather, the president of the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation, and Rebecca Gandor, the executive vice president, just to talk a little bit about Northland and some updates there.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I'm happy to talk about the incredible investment that's happened in the Northland Beltline corridor. As many of you know, the corridor is anchored by the Northland Workforce Training Center, as well as other manufacturing entities. Places like Buffalo Manufacturing Works, other small businesses are located there as well. So really, we have a comprehensive strategy for the redevelopment of that area that includes infrastructure, that includes workforce training, that includes working with the private sector on upcoming housing developments and things of that nature. I'm also happy to just turn it over quickly to Rebecca Gandor for an update on the $14 million that BUDC has received from the federal government to continue that development along the Northland Corridor.
Sure. Rebecca Gandor, Executive Vice President of the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation. Last year, the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation, working with our regional partners, applied to the Economic Development Administration, better known as the EDA, under a competitive grant nationwide. Happy to report we were able to bring $14.4 million of federal dollars to East Buffalo, along with a 20% match from Empire State Development. We're terming this phase 3 of the Northland Corridor redevelopment. We're going to be bringing additional manufacturing space to that area, which for residents is important, as in it creates job opportunities. So we have the training center that's there that is working to address any of the skills that our employment creators are looking for. So we're really excited to be able to bring that additional industrial space to East Buffalo. I know many of you are familiar with some of the recent statistics around just the lack of industrial space. So Northland will continue to be invested in, continue to provide employment opportunities for the residents. So we're really excited about that.
Just if I could give you some more context with East Buffalo. So on Jefferson Avenue, for example, the city has secured over $25 million to fund a complete streetscape project for the entire stretch of Jefferson from Main to Swan Street. So that will dramatically transform the look and feel of Jefferson Avenue, along with other projects that are coming to Jefferson, some of which are on the development list that you have. Bailey Avenue, the city has secured $15 million in funding to complete a streetscape project along Bailey Avenue from Bailey from Winspear to East Delavan. Again, that's going to be transformational on Bailey Avenue. Middle Main, Goodell Street to Kensington Avenue, the city has secured over $50 million in funding for a complete streetscape treatment on Main Street from Goodell to Kensington. Again, something that will be transformative in that area of East Buffalo. Fillmore Avenue, we've secured money for projects on Fillmore and a streetscape project on Fillmore. And one major part of our focus on East Buffalo will be using ARP dollars for training programs. You know, we've talked about this before, but we want to bring more training programs online that will rapidly upskill people and give them the ability to go from training to living wage, family-sustaining jobs, so that they can also make their own investments in their own community. So it's not just what can the government do for me, it's working with people, assisting people for what they can do for themselves.
Jim?
Doug Chanel aside, there has been a big onslaught lately of out-of-town developers, investors coming in, investing in Buffalo. Taking like the rails, the Main and Hurdle, the folks from Utah are working with the border, Marine Drive, the development team behind it from Philadelphia and elsewhere. How is it, what have you done to encourage out-of-town investment to come to Buffalo? What are some of the things you've done?
This development team is very development friendly. Part of what we've done is spending time with the development community, locally, across the state, and across the nation, letting them know that through the pandemic, Buffalo is open for business. Buffalo will spend the time to help you move your projects forward. We've used some of the financial tools and incentives that exist at the city level, at the county level, and at the state level to drive development forward. There was just a question about development in East Buffalo. Our development team has worked with individuals that are doing development in East Buffalo to identify additional funding sources to move projects forward. So with some projects that you're going to see moving forward in East Buffalo and other places, those projects were at a standstill because developers were not able to assemble all the dollars that they needed to move certain projects forward. Our development team found additional resources that could go into those projects, and as a result, projects in East Buffalo and other parts of the city are going to move forward. So we have a very hands-on development team, a very business-friendly development team that has been really creative in solving issues that developers have had to keep projects moving forward. And there are a lot of examples of that. I don't know if, Brendan, you want to follow up on that at all.
Yeah, I just, and again, this is a credit to the mayor. I mean, he's allowed us to have a professional team. This is a very high-level group of professionals that are standing before you. And I would say that while the mayor might have said development friendly, I would say that what drives us is fairness and consistency, professionalism in the work that we do. And that creates one of the most important words in the development community, predictability, right? So a lot of times when I first started, I'd get a lot of phone calls because people were trying to figure out, oh, well, how's this, maybe I can get this, maybe I can get that. And that's not how this team works. This team works to again, apply the rules fairly and consistently with all of the development projects, and then people understand the structure within which they have to work. And then that speaks not only to the local development community, but to your original question, that speaks to people who are coming in from out of town as well. And a lot of them, as you said, couple themselves with local developers, and that's because people know people within the building and what have you, and the various ins and outs. But that's really, again, it's still fairness and consistency no matter who you are. And so, again, we're very fortunate to have been able to create the team of professionals that we have. Jim.
Actually following up on that, how does the effort to be development friendly and straightforward, how much does that clash with what you find coming out of Elmwood Village and some other neighborhoods where they're complaining about exactly that, and complaining that the city is too developer friendly and not caring about the green code, et cetera?
Well, having spent more time on the Green Code than anybody else, other than maybe Nadine Marrero and others, I can tell you I care about the Green Code deeply. So, and that's where a lot of that work is again done in a way that is fair and consistent in Elmwood Village or anywhere else. So the development community is allowed to propose what it would like, and then there's a zoning board that can say whether there's going to be a variance or not. That's state statute, and that was taken into account as part of the entire Green Code process. And then those planning boards, zoning board of appeals, historic preservation boards, others then make the decision about that consistency with the Green Code. So I think there's always a tension in development. There's no question. And it's a challenge, not, again, just in the city of Buffalo, but nationally. One of the reasons that we have the housing crisis that we do in this country is because of the opposition that so many projects have. And there is absolutely, it's not the whole answer, but supply is one of the problems that we have. So last night, I believe it was over 100 units of housing, and most of those units of housing were opposed by the community. That has a macro impact on affordability in the city of Buffalo. That has an impact in placemaking. That has an so as you can tell, it's something that we think about a lot. But the point is the Elmwood Village and residents throughout the city of Buffalo, per the mayor's direction, was engaged deeply for 7 years to get a unanimous vote of the Buffalo Common Council, and over 250 public meetings, not counting all of the hearings as well. So again, that was part of setting the rules that were informed by the community, that then the development community can go back to them and said, well, these are the rules that were captured by you as part of this process. I would like this, variance or not. But that, again, there's a process under state law, under state statute that they then go through. So that is, it's not, there are limits to what we do as well.
And how does that then square, I guess, with Governor Hochul's, housing plan in terms of the Green Code? Obviously there are a lot of projects happening in the city of Buffalo, but is the Green Code actually come into conflict with what Governor Hochul is trying to push with his housing plan?
No, we have a tremendous amount of capacity yet in the city of Buffalo in terms of the amount of housing units that we can provide. There are still historic buildings that we are looking to convert. Obviously, the Statler, when that comes online, is going to add hundreds of units in the central business district. And many affordable housing units that are being built along Middle Main right now, the MVVA project in Mid-Main that is going forward. St. John Canty as well, that's under construction at this point in time. So there should be no conflict between the governor's goals and the Green Code.
Let me speak to that as well. And part of the governor's goals is to get suburban communities to focus on building more affordable housing. You know, people talk a lot about poverty in the city of Buffalo, but one of the reasons why low income and people living in poverty live in the city is because there is not a supply of affordable housing in the suburbs of Buffalo. And if you look at a lot of the urban communities, a lot of the cities around across the state, it's the same situation. So in the governor's affordable housing plan, there are incentives to build affordable housing in the suburbs, and there are also some penalties for communities that don't build affordable housing. So the Green Code and the governor's goals are perfectly in alignment in the city of Buffalo, and we're looking to build more affordable housing in the city. The question is, in other areas of the state, outside of cities, the supply of affordable housing is insufficient. And that's what the governor is trying to reach. But when we talk about development and being development friendly and being able to attract out-of-town developers, there's one word, and that's momentum. We've got to keep that in mind. Buffalo has momentum. We want to keep that momentum going.
Keelan, did you have a question?
Yes. So I don't want to rain on your parade, but I just want to play devil's advocate. Now, what if all of these housing facilities doesn't go according to plan, basically, on preventing these changes? What's next for East Buffalo then if those plans don't go accordingly? And do you really believe that just placing housing facilities on East Buffalo is going to promote like such a big change for the neighborhood?
So what we're saying, part of this presentation today is that the plans are working, is that stuff is getting built, things are going up, jobs are being created, and the plan for East Buffalo is not just housing. Housing is important, quality, affordable housing, important, job training, critically important, getting people into good paying jobs, having the training to go into good paying jobs, equity and inclusion in everything that we do, not just East Buffalo, but citywide, very important to build the kind of city that we all want to live in. And then with those things, we can attract more retail, we can attract more investment, we can attract grocery stores. So it's like a whole ecosystem that goes into this plan. And so far, we're seeing success in this plan, and our goal is to accelerate, speed up the success that we're seeing.
All right. Anyone else? We okay? Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Development team, you can come back in with me.